Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind.
Well, good afternoon, kits and cubs, and welcome to a True North Eager Beaver special. Today, recording day is, let me check, Wednesday, I believe it is. I just don't know anymore these days. February 25th, 2026. It is a gorgeous sunny day here in Puerto Vallarta at well, I guess we can't really call it a vacation Beaver Lodge anymore, but where we are here. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A, and thankfully not with me as usual is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. A big thank you goes out to our podcast's founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Mystery Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. Kids and Cubs, how is your mental health today? Mine, I have to admit, is not good at all. Surely it will be improving because we do have a plan to go home. More on that later. But as you can probably see from my face, I look awful. I feel worse than I look, if you can imagine that. It's been a rough couple of past few days, and the cartel thing was the least of it, to be totally honest. I think my Beaver Sweetie is doing a little better than I was, although last night, he was not doing well at all as well, or yesterday afternoon. I would rather be here being able to talk to you about a whole bunch of the stuff that's going on, the wonderful performance of our Olympic athletes, our para-athletes, Paralympians getting ready to go compete, Daniel Smith's latest address punching down on immigrants to try to mask her own incompetence as the government is going to rack up another major deficit because they keep on budgeting on an oil price, on a fluctuating resource, and being overly optimistic about how much it's going to bring in. Talking about Doug Ford trying to screw kids over again with cuts to OSAP and stopping counting, keeping track of kids in care who die while they are in care because he just cares about kids so much. Talking about the State of the Union and how the U.S. hockey team kind of, didn't do itself very honorably. The Supreme Court of the United States declaring the tariffs upon us illegal, and then Donald Trump coming up and making a statement about tariffs for everyone around the world that breaks every other or changes every other tariff agreement that he had in Europe, saying we will not accept them. A deal is a deal, which of course is funny when you consider that makes us all laugh in Canadian when we know that um, a deal is not a deal with Donald Trump. And you got the Treasury Secretary, Mr. Greer, saying, well, a free trade deal where we get free trade and there will be tariffs against Canada is something that we're looking at as if that has been different from anything we've ever experienced before. Because with the lumber tariffs alone, we know that the perpetual lumber tariffs, we know that we have never actually had a free trade deal with the United States. And the free trade deal that Donald Trump broke with us the first time, NAFTA, and that he's breaking with us this time, CUSMA, all had tariffs included. So basically saying that we were going to have the same thing that we always had. And him thinking that it's some kind of a flexor thing. There's so many things we could be talking about. And I would be rather talking about that doing my regular show. But, and, I've seen these things in passing. I have not been able to follow them as I usually do to give you as big an assessment or as deep in-depth assessment as I normally do. What I've told you about them is pretty much all I've been able to take in and entertain, because we have spent most of the past 3 days on the phone, online, looking for flights, trying to deal with that airline company, trying to get the attention of the media, trying to get the attention of elected officials, trying to get the attention of our consulate, and this with varying degrees of success and mostly lack of success. Writing to the consulate ended up being completely unhelpful because it seems that the consulate was closed physically for most of the code red. I'm sure they had access to emails and were getting back to the more urgent cases, but we never heard back from them. In the time that we were here, we were thinking of going down physically the other day, but that's when we realized that they were closed and they were only planning to open the next day. And well, we don't need them anymore now that we have tickets back home. We wrote our MPP, Mr. Ted Hsu from Kingston in the Islands, whose office responded very, very quickly, but said that there was very little they can do because airports and that type of stuff is a federal jurisdiction. We wrote our MP, Mark Garrettson. We have not heard back from his office at all in the time that we are here. We wrote to CTV. We did not hear from them. We did write to CBC, and we did hear from them, and a wonderful, fantastic journalist named Jeff Nixon found our story compelling enough that he took it upon himself to write a piece and to contact the media department of the airline, Flair Airlines, which we've been having a lot of trouble with because they just will not comply with the law. The airline, the APR, I can't remember off the top of my head what that means, but airline something, passenger regulations, not one, made no attempt whatsoever to comply with it, while every time we were on the phone telling us that yes, they were complying with it, and gaslighting us that section 18 of those regulations that clearly state that these are things that are their obligations when arise situations that are out of control of the airline, or things that they needed to do when these were situations that were in control of the airline, even though we had the text right in front of us, and them claiming that we were wrong and they were right, which is not true. And these were people that had, it has been shown to us through our interactions, no authority to make any decisions whatsoever or to be helpful in any other way other than changing your flight to another flight on Flair Airlines if one was available, canceling your ticket and issuing you a refund. And that was about it. We've placed 4 or 5 phone calls to them, and they all pretty much went the same way, being placed on hold in a queue with some type of weird music that for some reason pretty much every place that we've called that had hold music had that specific music. If there's such thing as PTSD from a situation like that, it would be hearing that hold music again that would provide it. Sometimes in a queue for well over an hour and a half before we would get a response, of course, which made it such that if there were any flights available in that hour and a half, they all became unavailable. So that was all for naught. But yes, calling, being put in the queue, having people say, "Oh, we're so sorry you went through this. It must have been a terrible experience for you." When you know that they don't feel it, don't care about it, are not sympathetic at all, getting your personal information, asking what it is that you would like, and then putting you on hold for a couple of minutes, and then returning and apologizing again and saying, "Well, there's nothing that we can do for you." Two of them ended up in some less than kind words being said on our part. Uh, One of them had us yelling, the other one did not have us yelling, but we were like basically saying, well, we've given you the resolution, you just won't accept it. And it's like, well, we're not accepting it because it's not resolution and you're lying to us. um, and basically say, well, we got to end this call now because we've got other people to help. So literally, they were just gonna hang up on us. It didn't seem to matter to them that if we were not able to leave, that we technically would have been left out on the street because there's only so long that we can stay here, particularly since flights started coming back in, and this is an Airbnb and a business for the person that operates this and would be liking to take extra bookings, but they were very kind and allowed us to stay here all the extra time. I have a feeling that it is at no extra cost, not exactly sure. We'll see if the bill comes in. Because we've already prepaid for this, so I don't think that there's a mechanism for them to charge us more. So, but they do have somebody coming in tomorrow, which ends up working well because we have a flight back tomorrow. But yeah, it's been a hot mess. Let's put it this way. When a cartel goes to war with a federal government and causes a code red in certain areas of the country and issues a shelter at home place, and there are cars burning and buses burning, and there's been gunfire exchanged and people dead, and sounds of things exploding everywhere that you don't know are gunshots or tires, and the smell of burning fuel through the air, and you've never been through anything like this before, and you are unnerved, but you follow the instructions, and turns out with all of that happening, that the greatest damage to your health and your well-being actually came from an airline rather than a cartel. I would suggest that there is a very, pardon my language, fucking serious problem with that airline and the way they do business. The wonderful reporter who took up our case is named Jeff Nixon, works for CBC. I had written originally to the reporter who had written the stories a few days ago, providing the updates that the airlines were flying in back at the time that Flair still had no flights. He was not working that day, but Jeff Nixon had picked up the file in his emails and decided to take up our case. He dealt with our issues with extreme care and kindness, and attempted to be as thorough as possible and as proactive as possible. He had written based on the very, very detailed email that I sent him, complete, I think, with 18 different screenshots of various things, so that he could see the whole story. Had written to the airline company before even contacting us, to make sure that he could get an answer, or that at least the wheels started turning to get answers on things. And the airline company did reply to him when he told us what the airline company said. That did not match at all with anything we had come to experience with it. And they never actually answered the specific question of why it was they were refusing to book people on other airlines within the first 48 hours, as is required by the regulations. They just pretty much skated over that. I could read to you the entire email I sent him. Pardon me, sorry. Very tired, lack of sleep. Didn't get to bed until past 4 a.m. local time yesterday, with all that was going on. But he did write an article, and would like to read it into the record for you guys if you haven't seen it yet. If you're looking for it on the CBC, it's Flair customer, quote, not clear at all on when he'll be able to fly home from Mexico. Douglas Connors among Canadians stranded in Puerto Vallarta. Technically, in one sense, we were clear and when we would be able to fly home, because we did have a ticket rebooked for March 3rd. It's just that was not acceptable, and would have had us incur costs for 9 extra days. I've been saying 12, but I forgot February is a 28-day month, not 31. 9 extra days, potentially at our own cost. And at the time, not knowing when the code red, early on, not knowing when the code red would be lifted, fearing that we would have to change location while the code red was on. The code red was lifted sometime around 2:15 p.m. yesterday here in Mexico. It's amazing. Things in Puerto Vallarta are pretty much already like they were the day before all of this started. There was noticeably fewer people on the beach yesterday. I'm guessing it's because a lot of people were able to get out on other airlines, and not many people had come in yet. But for all intents and purposes, things are pretty much back to normal. And there's a lesson to be learned here about the view, or what we imagine things to be like when we are in our home countries, and what they are really like, and how easy it is to be gaslit and misinformed. As a Canadian who had never been in a situation like this, where a cartel or a rebel group engaged in an uprising against the government, while I was there, you would hear these stories on the news and think, oh my God, it's a war zone, and oh my God, it's very scary. And, they're stealing people out of the hotels, and going after tourists and keeping people hostage. And let's not kid ourselves. People disappearing is a very, very big thing in Mexico. There's a bridge or a railing when we're coming onto the island on the Rio Cuale here in Puerto Vallarta, where they have posters of disappeared people who they're looking for. And it just goes on and on and on and on and on. There's just so many missing people here. That is a thing. That's a real thing. Sorry. Pardon me. I'm very, very sorry. I will probably be yawning a lot. So, I mean, you have the sense that it's people are terrorized, and that you can't go anywhere, and everywhere is unsafe. And it really, really wasn't like that. You definitely had to stay in, because it is very easy to become a statistical innocent bystander in a situation like this, especially if you're in any of the areas where activity was happening. And as we mentioned, there was activity happening very, very, very close to where we were and where we are. Where we were the first 5 days, and even closer, it was literally just around the corner, about 45-second walk leaving out the door. Is where one of the places here that had some incidents. And when we moved to our second place, there's an escarpment, so we're down the escarpment from it, but pretty much in line with where we were staying before. So we were about a 3 to 5 minute walk. We could hear stuff very clearly. We are facing the ocean, so we couldn't see anything because everything was happening on the street behind, but we could hear a lot of stuff. Yesterday, there was the sound of some helicopters and kind of stuff going overhead. Apparently, there are some naval ships deployed from the Mexican military in the area. There's probably about 2,500 troops deployed throughout the state of Jalisco, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, the government, did take the measures that needed to be taken, and order was restored relatively quickly. And so, like I said, we were never in actually any real danger so long as we followed all the instructions. So once we got used to the unsettled nerves, things were actually relatively easy to take. I think in one of the stories I read, there were some people at the resort, at a resort where locals went, and while this was going on, they were swimming and laughing and playing and whatnot, like it was no big deal. Yeah, it's just like this in Mexico. So I mean, really, the worst of it was a one-day thing that came and went. And yes, while there were things that were torched and cars that were burned, and there was some looting and some stores were vandalized. When I think of a war zone, I think of images I see in Ukraine, right, where there's bombs that come up and whole buildings are destroyed and all that kind of stuff. So war zone-ish, I wouldn't go so far as say, I guess for anybody who's experienced war. Nothing like that. But even when we see images of Ukraine, we've been seeing that, bombed out buildings and whatnot. And there's somewhere else there's a cafe that's operating, and people are sitting there, trying to have as much normalcy as possible in a situation that is completely abnormal. We had way more than even that in terms of activity and stuff. But still, visible destruction that you can see in a lot of places. It's not to soft pedal. It is bad, but it's not, and for somebody who's never experienced it, shocking. And for the Puerto Vallarta area experience specifically, which almost never undergoes something like this, very, very new, and more shocking by the fact that it happened here rather than other places like Cancun and Acapulco and in Sinaloa, where I'm sure the residents are a little more used to that, or where it happens more frequently. But still, when something is bad enough that you have to call in 2,500 troops, it's bad. By any objective measure, it's bad. But it's not. It was not. We need to pray for you bad because you're in danger, in the sense that just hanging out on your balcony or standing next to a window could get you shot. There was no feeling of that. On the first day, I definitely had the feeling that could be possible next day far away. But on the first day, there were people staying here that were, at the pool on the roof and swimming and that kind of stuff. So I mean, it's again, I guess if you're local or a seasonal resident, you know a little bit more what these things are really all about and how they tend to go down. But back to this article from Jeff Nixon in the CBC. Flair Airlines customer Douglas Connors and his partner have been trying to get back home to Eastern Ontario from Mexico, but he's still not sure how soon that can happen days after their flight home was abruptly cancelled. Quote, "We're not clear at all," Connors told CBC News on Tuesday, expressing exasperation in getting needed details from Flair, despite several calls to the airline and having scoured its website for information. After a 3-week stay in Mexico, Connors and his partner were supposed to fly home last Sunday from the Pacific Coast tourist city of Puerto Vallarta in the country's Jalisco state. But their flight was cancelled amid violence that erupted after a special forces operation saw Nemesio Osegura Cervantes, also known as El Mencho, the head of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, killed. Tourists in Puerto Vallarta were urged to shelter in place on Sunday. The situation caused Canadian airlines, including Flair, to temporarily cancel flights to and from Puerto Vallarta. Air Canada began resuming flights to the city on Tuesday, as did WestJet Air Transat. Flair said it would do so starting Wednesday. On that, Kids and Cubs, we started noticing on their website that flights were coming in. So we started calling because the flights were coming in. Certainly there would be flights going out. And given that, there were no new people coming in that needed to leave immediately, that those flights would probably be empty and being able to take a lot of us out. But when we clicked on their website, nothing for the longest time, nothing appeared for the dates. And then eventually the dates showed up as links that could be clicked. But when we clicked them, we would either get a blank screen or nothing would happen. So that's when we picked up the phone and called them, because we figured, well, if it is indicated that there's going to be some activity leaving and we can't book it, we can't look at it from the website, calling them and telling them we see that you're planning to have some flights, we would like to be able to book ours, proved completely unsuccessful. They kept on saying that there were no flights, even though they had placeholders for them, and again, not acknowledging that they had a duty to book us on another airline within 48 hours. And then they were claiming that there were, and even if they wanted to do so, there were no flights available, when that was not true, because we were scouring the internet looking to see if we can find something at a regular price, because we did have the option of selling our tickets so that we could apply for full refund, and applying that, of course, to the cost of the new tickets to get back. But them telling us that there were no such flights when we could plainly see that there were. They were just unwilling to book us on them. And despite the fact that we were some of the first to call when we found that our flight had been rebooked to March 3rd, and we found that unacceptable, I think we got the email at 12:25, and I think by 12:45 or something like that, we were on the phone, placing the call saying, no, we can't do this. And we're told that they would be contacting us when flights would be available. Apparently the order in which we called, I guess, was not what they were using for first come, first serve. They were using something else. We would sometimes get a notice after this article appeared. Then people started getting notices, I think, that there were some, well, actually, I don't know that because I don't know everybody that had booked with Flair. But for us, at least, we didn't get any proactive notice from the airline company until after this article appeared, that there were some flights out, and that there was the potential to get us out at an earlier date. Continuing on with the article, Global Affairs Canada advises Canadians to go to airports in Mexico, quote, only if they have confirmed flight and it is safe to do so. We were also talking to people at Porter and WestJet, I believe it is, and saying that if you are going to go to another airport in Mexico, if you're still trying to get out, because there's more choice, to take a discount carrier airline to the other city where you would be grabbing that plane. Do not take a bus. That would be a very, very bad idea still. So yes, only to go to airports in Mexico, only if they have a confirmed flight and it is safe to do so. Its current travel advisory tells Canadians to avoid non-essential travel at this time to more than a dozen states in Mexico, including Jalisco, within 50 kilometers of neighboring Michoacan. Global Affairs Canada says that more than 61,000 Canadians in Mexico have registered with the department, a number that jumped from 18,000 on Sunday. With regard to this, because people were asking if I called my credit card company because we had booked with that, and we had some travel insurance. The only thing that we were eligible for was perhaps $500 in case of a flight departing 5 hours later than scheduled. I'm not sure that will apply to a canceled flight. We are hoping that we can still apply for it, given that our original flight was scheduled to leave more than 5 hours later than originally planned, due to a fact that there was a technical issue with the actual plane, but eventually that flight got canceled. So maybe because it's not a flight we were able to board, that insurance provision will not hold. There was another insurance provision that could give us up to $5,000 minimum and up to $25,000 maximum in cases of situations like this. But that only kicked in if Global Affairs Canada had declared this dangerous enough to be a no-go zone, which is declared, I guess, a white zone. And when you saw the map, if you watched the press conference that Anita Anand was showing this, that there were some orange zones and some yellow zones. And we were declared a yellow zone, which is only exercise extreme caution, and those insurance provisions do not kick in with that designation. So for financial assistance or for insurance kicking in, none of that was helpful. And the article goes on to say, after Sunday's events, Flair subsequently rebooked Connors on a flight home Tuesday, March 3rd, more than a week after his prior departure date. Connors says Canada's air passenger protection regulations stipulate that large airlines like Flair are supposed to provide customers with a rebooking on a new flight within 48 hours of their originally scheduled departure time, when flight disruptions occur involving circumstances that are beyond the carrier's control. He also points out that Flair references this on its website, but when it does not reference the part stating that they need to rebook you on another carrier. Through our dealings with them later on, when we sort of got some options way down deep, buried on a page that says submit a request, that has a link to it that you can find nowhere on their website, only comes if you get a specific email that has an option to rebook a flight, which we had never gotten. We only had an option to cancel our flight or to maintain our tickets. So you can't access it. Somewhere in there, on a pull-down menu, there is the option to rebook with another carrier, but you cannot proactively request that. It would appear from anywhere on their website if you do not get that special link given to you somehow. And you cannot get that done through the call center because they have absolutely no authority to do that. So technically, there's an option for it, but it is offered in extremely bad faith, if you can find it, only if you get that link. And on that page, when you're looking at things, there is no place that says specifically, click here to be rebooked on another flight. It's when we clicked on submit a request, and then we saw, oh, that's how that could happen. Interesting that was never offered to us when we were requesting it. So that was a very interesting situation here. Okay. Jeff wants to talk to me?
Yes.
Us, okay. The journalist from CBC wants to follow up with us. So we'll be contacting him after that. The article goes on to say, the airline told CBC News that it has been dealing with a fluid situation, quote, as capacity is limited, and this was the sort of non-answer to the question of why it is that they couldn't or they weren't rebooking us within 48 hours. As capacity is limited on Flair-operated flights departing from Puerto Vallarta tomorrow. Not on all flights, just theirs, we may offer affected customers rebooking on other airlines as part of our ongoing recovery efforts. We may. Flair Airlines said in an email statement on Tuesday. Quote, we are actively working on building additional recovery flights and customers will receive email updates as options become available. But again, no proactive. We are first going to try to book them on ours, and we were already well over that 48 hours. So there's absolutely no initial proactive inclination on the part of that airline company in order to comply with that section of the law. Yes, sir.
Hello, everybody. So the way I read the regulations, we shouldn't need to do anything. If they can't offer us a flight within 48 hours, then they need to contact us and say, sorry, we can't get you home within the next 48 hours. There's this other airline, there's this flight that we can book you on. Would you like it? That's how it's supposed to work. And that's how it worked for me about 6-7 years ago with British Airways when I was at the airport. And that plane never left London because the tire blew out. So it was like, well, shucks. What can you do? So we stayed in line. It took 4 hours to deal with everybody, but such is life. It takes a while to book tickets. And they flew me at their expense with Turkish Airlines. No problem. That's how it's supposed to work. Yeah. I didn't find my own flight. They did. They're the ones who are supposed to do that. And it's not contact you within 48 hours. If they can't fly you on their own airline within 48 hours, then they have to fly with somebody else. Ideally, within the same 48 hours. Like you shouldn't be stuck waiting so long. It's not that they have to contact you within 48 hours. No, you got to get home.
Well, you should have a confirmed booking at least.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Departing within the 48 hours. So yeah, Alex's experience might have been a little different because he was at the airport specifically, and that's one thing. If you're at the airport, but given that we didn't know when flights were resuming, we didn't know that there was probably no staff at the airport to go there and ask specifically either. So because they had originally canceled all flights for an entire week and then started backtracking when they saw that there was opportunity to get some flights in. The article goes on to say here, hearing the airline statement, Connors said, quote, it was not reflective of our experience. Connors had seen availability on a slightly earlier Toronto-bound flight from Flair on March 1st, but he was hesitant to make that change as he feared he'd have to pay it again if an earlier flight became available afterward. The policy was that you were only allowed to make one change, so we couldn't book March 1st. So that would get us out 2 days earlier. And then, if they were going to be adding flights, which it looked like was going to happen, and say, well, now we've got a flight for you on the 26th, but sorry, you confirmed for the March 1st, so you don't have access to that. That's the way this company operates. The airline told CBC News that it had tried to let customers understand that they can be rebooked at a date of their choosing and without extra cost. But the only dates of the choosing that were available were later dates, not prior ones. Quote, generally, we wouldn't allow multiple changes without a fee, but as these are unprecedented times, we're waiving them, the airline said. That was the first we had ever heard of that, and we still do not see anything on their website that clearly indicates that people can make more than one change. Connor said he was having trouble on his first attempt at rebooking a new flight. He said he'll wait to see confirmation on whether or not the statement holds true. It didn't really. Later Tuesday evening, Connor said he had not been able to book an earlier flight. Even later in the evening, we had given up on Flair and we booked alternative travel through Air Canada, which we can cancel within 24 hours. And it was then that we finally got an email stating that there were options available to rebook on the 25th. We're now talking something like, close to midnight, my love? 11 p.m.
Past 12:30.
Past 12:30. By this time, of course, we are completely exhausted emotionally and mentally and all of that kind of stuff. And when you clicked on that link, rather than bringing you to a page where you could rebook your flight and only rebook your flight, it brought you to a page that had three options: keep your flight, book a flight at a different time, or cancel your ticket. And the first two options should not have been there, because we were specifically asking that we wanted to rebook at an earlier time. The message said there are flights available on the 25th. I stupidly interpreted that, or not stupidly, because when you go on the page, when you go on your airline, there's a flight on this day at this time with numbers and whatnot. There was no indication of what dates the options referred to. So the only date that I had seen in the communication was February 25th. So I thought that that was the flight that they were offering to me. So I clicked on keep the flight, but keep the flight actually meant keep the flight for the March 3rd. And not what they were announcing in the email, that there was a flight available on the 25th. And since you're only allowed to make one change, that locked us in. So we went back online on the phone to call them immediately and stated that we had made a mistake, and it was again, sorry, there's nothing we can do for you. You clicked. Too bad. So sad. We did get to a point where they agreed to refund the tickets to us. Early in the day, both of our tickets were on the same reservation number. We had split the reservation to see, because sometimes trying to get this is hard, to see if we can do them as one seat. Maybe one of us would have an opportunity to go before the other. My Beaver sweetie has to teach, so we would have given them first precedence, and if I had to stay a little longer, I would have. But for some reason, every time they sent us emails with these things, it applied to both tickets, even though the tickets were supposed to be split. So when I made this decision and made the error, turns out I made the error for both of us. They said that they were going to refund the tickets. They told us the amount, supposed to be the amount for both tickets. And they told us that that had been processed on the call, and that we would be receiving something within an hour that confirmed that, this had taken place. We never received that thing that was confirmed. We did receive another email, Alex did, saying, you have options. And again, there was a list of several options, not just one, and one of them was to cancel the flight and get a refund. We didn't know if we needed to click on that because we had done the process by phone, and we had already stated that we wanted that, and we were told that that was done. When my Beaver sweetie filled out the form and clicked on it and then went to click submit, nothing happened. It would not accept it. So I went onto my phone, where again, the option to cancel the tickets was not divided as a split ticket. It was a decision for both of us. I clicked on it and mine went through. Couple of about an hour or so later, on my credit card, there was a refund, but only for one of the tickets, not two, as had been agreed to on the call. I figured that maybe it was because I was the only one that was able to fill out the form. So I went online this morning to use my phone to fill out the form for Alex and ask for his cancellation and refund, because it would also appear, I received another message saying, you need to get ready for your flight leaving February 22nd. It's February 25th. When I entered the reservation number, it said this file cannot be found because my ticket had been canceled. So I entered the other reservation number from the split reservation, for Alex's ticket, and turns out that Alex's ticket still exists. So for some reason, the split reservation did not work when it came to canceling the flight or reordering or changing the dates, but for some reason, in order to be able to find the copy of your ticket, however, it was split. So with Alex's reservation number, I had filled out the form and asked for his ticket to be canceled. That I know of at the moment, there has been no action taken yet. So even the refund part, we might be getting screwed. Yeah. So early words of wisdom: never, 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 never give your business to Flair Airlines. Ever. There is no customer service. Everything is not transparent. Everything is set up to cause you to click on something that is incorrect. And then for them to say, well, yeah, that was your one chance. Too bad, so sad. Now we got your money. There's never anything they can do for you when you call. And I have rarely had to deal with a company that operates in such bad faith as this one. I do not know if we have a legal case of some kind. I don't know if it's something that can be done in small claims or has to be done elsewhere. I don't know how it works if you file a complaint, with the Canadian Airline Travel Association or whatever it is. Apparently that takes a long time. I think my first move, however, will be to contact that airline passengers right group, because the leader of that is a person who appears to be extremely effective and know their stuff. So they will probably be my first recourse. So I do intend to pursue something. I will admit that at present, even the thought of taking on that task seems too monumental. There's part of me that says it would just be easier to take the $500 something hit and move on. After all, it's only money. And even though that is a significant amount that you can do some good things with, it is not an amount that would break me. But there's a principle here. And like I said at the beginning of the show, when you have a situation like this and when it's all over, the quasi-totality of the ill effects on your physical, mental health, and emotional health and well-being came from dealing with the airline rather than the fact that there was a cartel shooting and blowing things up. That's a fucking problem.
They do this too.
You're untrained enough.
Yeah. And the thing is, we should pursue it. They don't do this just to us. We've made friends here who are with it. They've done it to them. They will do this, and they probably have done this to whenever there's a snowstorm, whenever there's anything, they do this clearly to everyone. It is clearly part of their script. It's part of their modus operandi. It's part of how they run their business. And it's illegal. Outright. They actually have an outright policy to be illegal, despite saying we comply. I was like, you don't need to say you comply. You have to comply. End of story. It's that simple.
Yeah. So if you happen to know anybody here who is stranded with Flair Airlines, please let them know that if they are trying to rebook and they get that email that is very deliberately confusing and vague, that they need to click the second option. That is the one that allows them to reschedule their flight. And nothing else. Just the second option. We learned that one the very hard way. So yeah, kits and cubs. That is, I guess, what we got for you today. There's a couple of things Just want to read into the record here before we go. One's article from Al Jazeera from their podcast called The Take. Oh, it says, oh, okay, sorry. I guess it's not an article. It is a link to an actual podcast. Al Jazeera tends to do good work on this type of stuff. So if you would like to listen to that, there's an episode called What El Mencho's Death Means for Mexico's Cartels. That might be of some interest to you. There is an article as well from the BBC that from Will Grant, who is reporting from Guadalajara. It says threat of further violence looms after Mexican cartel rampage. It says driving into Mexico's western city of Guadalajara, the evidence of Sunday's terrifying cartel rampage is still visible. The charred debris, and now the screen is scrolling for some reason. The charred debris of burnt cars sits on roadsides, and there are scorched patches of asphalt on the highways under the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. After the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, one of the most powerful and feared cartels in the country, set scores of vehicles alight in response to the killing of their boss, Nemiso El Mencho Aseguera. This and the sight of ransacked or burning convenience stores projected exactly the message the CJNG wanted, that with or without their chief, they remain powerful with the ability to unleash havoc and chaos on the streets, sowing fear and intimidation on a mass scale. Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum has been trying to counter this narrative. In her daily press conference on Monday, she spoke, quote, of peace and tranquility returning to much of the nation and praised the response of security forces. Meanwhile, convoys of troops and police officers circulate around Guadalajara. They are meant to bring reassurance, but for many residents, add to the sense of unease. Despite their presence, the streets are emptier than usual, a sign that people fear more violence both in Guadalajara and in the wider Jalisco state. Most small businesses were shuttered and schools were closed as workers stayed home lying low with their families. Where we are, schools are open as of today. The owner of Severo Cafe, Anwar Montoya, was not among them. Quote, I had to open today. We're a new business and I have a lot of things to pay for, he tells the BBC, laughing. Speaking about the recent violence, he says, quote, it was a strange and difficult day. Everybody was scared, and now some are afraid about what might still happen. Montoya felt that opening his cafe would be welcome in order to provide, quote, secure area for a lot of friends. His customers appeared to appreciate the decision, with most tables full of young people on their laptops or chatting quietly in the shade of their roof terrace. Among his customers was left-wing parliamentary deputy Mariana Casillas. She sees many things wrong with what happened in Jalisco, both in the cartel's violence and the government's response. Quote, this is not a new scenario, she says, of Mexico's ongoing drug war. Quote, only on this occasion because it involved the killing of a top capo, which is, I think, caporal, short for caporal, high-ranking member of a crime syndicate. The violence exploded in a much more potent fashion than normal. Organized crime roadblocks set up by cartels, the burning of buses, and the kidnap of ordinary citizens are things her community has endured for 2 decades, she says, since the state's conflict with the cartels was launched during the presidency of Felipe Calderon in 2006. Quote, as a local representative, it's my duty to ask why this model or this script has continued to be repeated for more than 20 years, Casillas adds. It is a model in which life in Mexico is considered disposable by the drug cartels, she argues, and in which the government remains focused on taking out high-profile cartel leaders rather than tackling the environment of violence and poverty that underpins the gangs and contributes to young people joining their ranks. With more than 60 funerals being organized for both CJNG foot soldiers and National Guard troops, it's an argument which will resonate with many people venturing out to Jalisco for the first time since Sunday's violence. Many fear that the strategy of taking down top leaders will only beget more fighting. Quote, the execution of the kingpin strategy in Mexico over the last 2 decades, the extraction or the killing of major leaders like El Mencho, has always resulted in the same thing, more violence, says drug war expert Deborah Bonello, who is the managing editor of the Inside Crime think tank. She continued, quote, when you take out a major leader, there's a detonation or of a struggle to take control in that vacuum. So you'll see these squabbles for power in different parts of the country. One of those parts could well be Guadalajara, which is due to host thousands of international football fans for the FIFA World Cup in June. One of the exciting prospects of the pitch is the lineup between Spain and Uruguay as at the city's main stadium. But fans would be forgiven for thinking twice about attending the game following this week's shocking scenes. Anwar Montoya emits a short whistle of disbelief when I mention the competition. Quote, I've never been to a World Cup, so I don't know how they work in other countries, but I don't think this is a safe place for the World Cup, he says. Mariana Casilla agrees, telling the BBC there are several, quote, very painful crises unfolding in Jalisco. These include what she describes as the crisis of violence, which we just saw in its maximum expression, as well as the crisis of the disappeared. Tens of thousands of people have been reported missing in Mexico, almost all since 2007, when Calderon launched his war on drugs. In many cases, those disappeared have been forcibly recruited into the drug cartels or murdered for resisting. The Mexican government insists Guadalajara is ready and able to host tens of thousands of visitors from around the world in a colorful celebration of sporting excellence. Sheinbaum said on Tuesday, there was, quote, no risk to fans, and, quote, that all the guarantees were in place. She said during her daily morning press conference the situation was normalizing, with security forces working to safeguard the public. FIFA boss Gianni Infantino told reporters he was, quote, very reassured about Mexico's hosting of games in the Football World Cup. Personal editorial note, then again, Gianni Infantino created the whole FIFA Peace Prize and decided that Donald Trump would be a worthy recipient. So maybe his judgment and discernment on such matters is probably not something in which someone should place a lot of stock. Just saying. Quote, everything is good. It's going to be spectacular, Infantino told the Agence France Presse news agency in the Colombian city of Barranquilla. Of course, it's going to be spectacular is a term sort of like, what's that word that the prime minister used to describe Donald Trump, transitional or something transformative. Things being spectacular can be a bad thing, not only good. But Casillas is adamant, quote, the people here don't want the World Cup, they want security, they want clean water, and they want their disappeared relatives back. So, kids and cubs, that's all I got for you today. Again, not going to say I enjoyed making this for you, but we hope that you found this informative and helpful if you happen to have any family or friends down here. If you would like to share our content, kids and cubs, with a little note on why it is that it resonates with you, we would be very happy for you to do that, because that is advertising that we cannot buy, and it is priceless. And of course, you are influencers in your own circle, so when you share our content in that way, it definitely means the world to us and has a lot of value. If you would like to help us in other ways, kids and cubs, you can do so by going to this, scanning this QR code. That will bring you to our YouTube page. And if you have not subscribed yet, please do. That helps us a lot with the algorithm. And while you're there, why not smash with our like and share buttons as well, because that also helps. And the more people that like our things, well, it gives us a little dose of happy, and we could use a little dose of happy right now. Seeing some things in the chat. Can you help in any way? Just keep on sending the good vibes for now, and hope that we actually do get to take off and that nothing else happens with our departure, because we really, 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 really just want to be home. and that we don't have to place another telephone call to anybody else or be put on hold. That would be nice as well. That would be very, very, very nice. If you would like to help us in other ways, kids and cubs, of course, thank you, whoever scanned the QR code for the like, share, and subscribe. This QR code here that we're going to put on the screen will send you to our coffee page. That's where you can make a donation to the show if you like the quality of our content and you want to encourage us to do more. We always appreciate your donations. If you're on YouTube, remember that we have the super chat, and we have memberships. If you can do that, that is also wonderful. Again, kids and cubs, like we've said on all the other shows, do not send us money if you are thinking that we actually need money to cover our costs and all of that kind of stuff. Yes, there are some unexpected expenses, and yes, we will be taking a hit. But listen, we are not in dire situations in that sense, and it's a little more belt tightening, a couple of extra bologna sandwiches, that kind of stuff. But we'll be able to manage that, as unpleasant as it is. I hate wasting money. I hate spending money on things for which I get no actual value or benefit. But everybody needs their money, and we do not want to take any from you for that specific purpose. But if you do like the actual show and want to support the show, then we'd be very happy to take your money. But not because you think that we need financial help because of the situation, or you feel sorry for us or bad for us. Please don't do that. Use that to pay it forward to someone who needs it more if you feel that you need to make a donation of that kind, right? But we are absolutely grateful for any financial support you give for the show. Kids and Cubs, as you know, the democracy is something that you do part. We have petition our House of Commons. So if you go to ourcommons.ca and look for petition, I believe it is E7148. Go to that and please sign it. That's a petition requiring, seeking for there to be a mechanism to require that the leader of the opposition get his SCI level security clearance, because he does not have it and never has, and is a vulnerability to our nation without it. Also, there's the high-speed train consultation if you are looking for that. So please go that. If you're in Alberta, there's a petition circulating started by Corb Lund to keep the water clean and safe from coal mining. So there's lots of things that you can support. And if you are Ontario, the students are rallying and organizing to fight those OSAP cuts if you can, especially if you've once had an OSAP loan, if you paid it off. Don't ask future generations to have to suffer the same way we did. We're supposed to make things better for the following generations. So pick up a phone and write to your MPP, call them, send them emails, ask for a meeting to ask them why it is they are doing that to the youngest, especially when they are the ones that are going to be covering our retirements when we get older, and anything that they can do to have a higher earning potential in terms of student loans and grants is a good thing. These are not freebies. These are not handouts. These are investments in the earning power of a younger generation that will be helping us have a good retirement. So don't let Doug Ford debase our kids in that way, shape, or form. And also, if you don't think it's okay that they are actually choosing not to keep track anymore of kids under the care of the Children's Aid Society who die under their care, you might want to write them a letter and ask them what the hell's going on with that. Words of wisdom. Again, if you're traveling with airlines and you have an opportunity to rebook your flight, choose the second option. That's all I got. Once again, a big thank you to Mr. Jeff Nixon from the CBC with all our heart for having done some thoughtful and kind work. We'll be leaving this podcast to give him a call. He's calling right now, so I will not after the phone. Tell him I'll be right with him. And so I'm going to sign off for now. Kids and Cubs. We will not. Yeah. We will not have an Easter egg. So just 1, 2, 3. Say, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock. 1, 2, 3. And here we go. Get some Cubs. And there it goes.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and The Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music.